The performance of the medium-sized altcoins was rather mixed last week. Monet tends to underperform. The question is why? Who's selling here? Is this potentially an opportunity to buy low to then afterwards sell high again? Let's have a look at the on-chain data, the data most people are not considering. Now the attention on Monet is going down. This was the first video on this channel. It outperformed the average video published on Bitcoin strategy. Another video followed that slightly outperformed, and here is the recent video. It's just average in terms of performance. So there are less eyes on the asset, and unfortunately this time attention does correlate with the price development. What we see over here, that's Monet relative to the others market cap. How is the MON price doing relative to all other altcoins? From the peak on the 26th of November to today, we have seen an underperformance of 51%. And if we take the bottom, the middle of December, as a potential support, then we still might see additional underperformance of potentially 14%. If you compare Monet to Ethereum, the next support comes after an 18% underperformance. Here is Monet relative to Bitcoin. Here the potential underperformance is even 21%. Now why is Monet selling off in the first place? Attention is one explanation, but the tokenomics is another. So this is the number of circulating Monet over time. This is slightly increasing over time, but really the cliff unlock in November of this year will be the main event. So what could be happening here is that there's maybe some over-the-counter deals. Because this here is the official tokenomics. Sometimes the founding team sells their allocation before the unlock already to third parties for a discount. That's called OTC trading. So over the counter, not directly with the market. And very often those kind of market participants that buy that allocation, they then hedge themselves versus the perpetual futures market. And that's something that also happened with Mantra DAO. We had a massive crash in April of last year. But at the time, the supply of Mantra DAO tokens didn't really grow that much just yet. So this little bit of supply growth cannot be the reason for a quick crash like this. Very likely future allocation got sold to third parties that then pushed the price down via the perpetual futures market. That's what's causing those violent price movements. Even after the drop, Mantra DAO continues to go down. Again, because the supply expands over time. But this video is not about Mantra DAO. This video is about Monet. I simply want to show how important tokenomics are. And unfortunately, Monet does have a long-term expanding supply. Now let's have a look at the usage of the chain over time. What you're seeing here, that's the TVL on Monet. How many dollars are currently on the chain? This is still slightly growing over time. Not necessarily in the last few days, but in general, the trend is bullish. By the way, if this is not your very first time watching this channel, then feel free to subscribe over here. I publish videos regularly, and when you're subscribed, YouTube is more likely to recommend the videos of this channel again. Unfortunately, the chain revenue is not growing anymore. There was initial hype, but now it's just a few $1,000s per day in revenue. Here we've got the decentralized exchange trading volume that spiked again at the beginning, but now stays at a relatively constant level. And it's not a high level. It tends to be below 100 million per day. Now here's some data that comes directly from the Monet Explorer. This is the number of transactions over time. Initial excitement, and now things tend to shrink. Here is the number of active addresses over time. That peaked at 174,000. It's currently at 42,000. And here's the network utilization. Again, a very clear drop, but maybe we are stabilizing somewhat. Maybe we are not dropping that much anymore in terms of usage. But of course, if a project doesn't grow, but at the same time the supply does, that's not good for the price. That's why we've got those potential losses versus other cryptocurrencies. So really the fundamental question is, what could turn this momentum around? Because currently there is no narrative, there is no excitement that could suddenly push the MON price up again. Rather the opposite. This is the amount of open interest, so the number of bets on the Monet price. Again, this grew very quickly. It spiked on the 27th of November and since then goes down. And when open interest is going down, the spot price tends to follow as well. There's really very little activity even for the levered traders. There's pretty much no liquidations. And the question is always, is the valuation justified? We are at 267 million in total value locked, while the fully diluted valuation is at 2.3 billion. This valuation implies a lot of future growth for Monet. Growth that we currently do not see in the trends. And that's the big issue. The only thing that's slightly growing is TVL, so that's capital on chain, but that capital gets utilized less and less, at least relatively speaking, right? When the trading volume and the revenue is stagnant while the TVL is going up, then the return per capital deposited goes down. In other words, there's less utilization of the capital, which then means there's less incentive to add even more capital. We need to see activity on a chain to attract more capital, because activity translates into trading fees translates into returns for the liquidity providers. And that's unfortunately currently what we do not see. So I don't know what should turn this around. I think the likelihood is very high that we are going to revisit those all-time lows in MON again. When we are at the 1.7 cents per Monet token again, it might make sense to revisit. But before that, I stay away or potentially even bet on falling prices. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. If you want to know what kind of trades I make, then feel free to check out the premium membership. A link to premium pops up on the screen. Just click on that. It will lead you to the website. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers.